On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Unquestionable Presence by Atheist. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we've got some more technical death metal from back in 1991. Kind of one of the first big technical death metal albums. Very well regarded and regarded as sort of being the most important sort of stepping off point for the sub genre as a whole. Definitely a band that I think has been extremely influential on other death metal bands that want to do something a bit wackier with crazier time signatures and more complicated songwriting. Is that's what Atheist is,
right? With elements that aren't death metal.
Yeah,
it's definitely prominently littered about.
Lots of jazz time signatures, some sort of Latin influenced riffs. Like, yeah, there's a lot going on in this album that would have been very, very weird and very new to death metal fans in 1991.
This was very off-putting to me at that time.
And you know how a decade later you would go like, oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, they were just way the fuck ahead of their time.
Way ahead of the curve. Because I feel like other band, like, you know, especially like technical death metal. When I think of technical death metal, I don't necessarily think of like really wacky time signatures necessarily. Like I don't think of that jazzy sort of songwriting style generally. I think of really fast, really intricate playing, but not necessarily like unconventional structure when I think of technical death metal. For the weird structural shit, I tend to think of progressive or like experimental stuff, which this also fits into. It sits kind of at a point where the three can kind of branch off from this album.
Right.
And later on, of course, you know, you have your Opeths and your Edge of Sanities and your fucking Gorgutses and whatnot.
Right.
We'll talk more about Atheist a little bit later on. First, how are you?
Doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, I guess. I'm still getting used to the new place.
Yeah. It's still weird because I mean, I walked into your old place and it was like, oh yeah, this is where a child lives. I mean, that makes sense. But I walk into here, it's like, oh, this is an adult apartment for an adult who's adulting.
Well, I mean, like I moved into that previous place when I was 22.
Right.
Which, as Kyle Kinane has said, you're not even really a person. No. You're just a creature. And so a lot of the way that things were laid out and a lot of the stuff that I had, which is for the most part, a lot of the stuff that I still have. Right. But it just did not feel like a space that was super conducive to kind of getting my shit together a little bit. Like, I don't know. I feel like it has felt like so far being in here, maybe it's just the change of pace and change of scenery, but it feels like I'm more motivated to kind of be a bit more organized and be a bit more clean.
I got to say, as a person, you have changed a bit over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You've changed over the next 2 weeks.
My brain hurts.
The last 2 weeks you've become like a different person. You're more easygoing. Well,
I think I've also was just fucking stressed out for the longest time because the move was coming up and it was looming for so long. And when I have something that is looming over my head, I obsess over it and I can't stop thinking about it, and it fucks with my whole shit.
Well, you also have a legal issue looming overhead, isn't it?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, good.
I mean, okay. So like to explain a little bit of what that was, because no one who is listening, including members of my family,
they don't know,
have the context that you have.
Exactly. You go into prison for a while.
No. So like I moved out of my previous place, and I have some concerns that maybe the property company there is going to try and mess with me a little bit beyond just like not giving my deposit back. Like,
sure.
I'm worried that maybe they're going to find damages in excess of my deposit or things, that were in violation of my lease, and they're going to try and charge me for it. And that's a concern that I've had even before I moved out, that was going to be a possibility. And so today I open up my email while I'm at work, and I have USPS, whatever the fuck it's called, that lets you see what mail is coming to you. Like they scan your envelopes. I don't remember what the hell that's called.
An email.
But yeah, well, yeah, but the service is called something.
Sure.
But they scan your envelopes so you can see what pieces of mail are supposed to be arriving today. And I saw one that came from the Ward County courthouse from like the clerk's office, and immediately my mind starts racing with, oh my God, I'm being sued. And I finish up with some stuff, and then I go and talk to you about it, because I was, starting to get pretty upset in my own head. And the lady, Kim, who we work with, was like, sort of overheard and was like, "Are you getting jury duty again?"
Because that's what I said.
Yeah,
I said, you said it's I'm getting sued or something. I'm like, you're not getting sued.
It's probably just jury duty or something.
Yeah.
And then Kim was like, "Oh, Jess apparently is getting summoned for jury duty, who's our other coworker." And so I talked to Jess about it, and she got basically the same email with the same envelope, which actually I didn't get that today.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, unless it has arrived in the last couple of hours since I got home from work. I didn't actually get that today, because you can't rely on the post office in this town.
Really?
The postal service in this town sucks. But yeah, it was supposed to be arriving today, but all I got was finally my bill for the X-ray I got a month and a half ago.
Sure.
On my shoulder. Yeah, so I did not get that piece of mail to get any confirmation. But as far as I'm aware, it's probably just like maybe a jury duty summons, which, as we discussed after that sort of came to light, I probably won't have to do anyway, because both me and our coworker Jess and you, we're all members of the media,
right?
And if both of us who are coworkers and know each other both got summoned for the same jury duty, I don't think that would be allowed.
Right. I've only got summoned once in all my years.
Really?
I've only got summoned once, and I went and I sat in the room for a long time. And they brought us in, and they asked us questions, and I could just see the looks on their face when I answered the questions. They're like, why is he even here?
This guy, no. Send this guy home.
Yeah.
If it is indeed jury summons, this will be the second time,
right?
Because previously I was summoned for federal jury duty,
right?
Or grand jury at the federal courthouse in Bismarck, but that never ended up happening for one reason or another. But I did not have to do that after all. I thought I was going to have to, which was going to be maybe a little bit of a problem, because Bismarck is a non-trivial distance away. Right. The sort of distance where I don't want to have to drive that every day, so I'd have to stay down there.
Do they put you up for that?
Yeah, I believe if you have to stay overnight or a hotel room or whatever, then they do put you up for that. They would have paid for it just fine, and I probably would have, stayed. I very easily could have just stayed in a hotel, but also my sister lives in Bismarck, so I could have done that as well. But I don't know. There's something to be said for staying in a nice hotel when it's completely paid for.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Would have been kind of neat, but I didn't have to do it. So, yeah, we'll see what this letter actually is.
You know how I knew immediately, other than the obvious things like why would they just sue you like now?
Yeah, instead of and that's those thoughts occurred to me before I'd said them out loud of like they would have to try and contact me beforehand. They'd call me and be like, hey, like, will you pay for these damages? Just straight up. And before, and we don't have to take it to court. Like, but those thoughts occurred to me, but it didn't make the anxiety any less. And so I needed other people to tell me to fucking calm down.
The other reason that I knew was that last week, you gave me your old computer, the one that's just been sitting around collecting dust for a while, and I have this laptop that's basically got 64K, on it.
It can barely run Doom.
Yeah, I can barely run. Yeah, it's awful.
It's the only piece of technology in the world that can't run Doom
or Skyrim. But I mean,
that's a new one.
Yeah. So anyway, you gave it to me in the box, and when I opened that box, all the components were in bags and had twist ties, and everything was in pristine, basically shape. And when you said that today, I'm like, I have no doubt in my mind that when Kale left his old apartment, and they came in and inspected, they're like, did someone actually live here? There's no way to know. I mean, but in your mind, you're like, oh my God, there's a spot of water damage. I ruined everything.
Yeah.
And they probably came in and like, oh, good job. Thanks for leaving it like this.
Well, and like I was shocked when I pulled all of my like audio panels off of the wall.
Yeah.
Because I used a lot of push pins to hold each individual square up. And I was kind of shocked. Like you back up 2 feet from the wall and they completely disappeared. I was convinced that there was going to be like super visible holes there. And if you know to look for them, then they will probably stand out. Like there were some other pinholes in the walls that were from the previous tenant before me that I like noticed and couldn't unsee. But like yeah, I definitely have kind of convinced myself that I treated that place a lot worse than I
definitely
really did.
Yeah.
But I mean, my also like credit where credit is due. Like I didn't treat it super badly, but it definitely wasn't clean. It wasn't super clean, and my mom did an amazing job. Like while my dad and I, and then our friend Matt, on the second day of the move were like moving all of the heavy stuff. My mom was busy like vacuuming and scrubbing and cleaning stuff. And she did a fantastic job. She made that place spotless. Just an amazing job. Yeah, it'll probably be fine, but for the next, month and a half, at least, there's going to be a voice in the back of my head that is saying like, you might be in trouble.
I hope you never have to rent from that company again. You are definitely blackballed.
Blackballed?
Yeah.
Blacklisted might be the...
Oh, sorry. It's an old man term.
Okay.
The blackball would be something that happens like when you're banned from a specific group.
Okay. Yeah. I would think of blacklisted being the term, which means that
James Spader
is going to come after you.
Exactly. At least send the FBI after you.
The only name that popped into my head was Robert California. Yeah. I couldn't remember the actor's name.
I'm the fucking Lizard King.
You don't even know my real fucking name. I'm the fucking Lizard King. That's God, that character was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like very, very quickly after I brought, this anxiety up to all of you guys and had it quickly kind of alleviated. It's still sort of like I was still kind of feeling the after effects of it for the rest of the day.
Right.
And I kind of still am. I still don't feel like entirely all right. I still feel a little like a little upset that, that feeling that if you have like a really big cry at some point in the day, and then there's just this feeling for the rest of the day, even if you feel better, there's like this I don't know how to describe
like a lingering effect, sort of.
Yeah. Like I don't know. There it's just sort of stuck with me there. But no, I'm sure it was. I'll wait to see until I open up the envelope. But I'm sure it's just this literally, because it was, like I said, the same thing that Jess had. Because she subscribes to the same service I do.
Right. And in my mind, you're going to open up the envelope, and it's going to be from the District Court of Ward County.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a piece of paper with a black spot on it.
The black spot. I have to do the sign of the cross and spin around or whatever the hell they do in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be a black handprint that says "We know."
Yeah, right.
Underneath it.
Oh shit! The Assassin's Guild's coming
God,
after me.
it's the fucking. What are they actually called? It's not the Assassin's Guild. It's the I can't remember what they're called now. It's been so long since I've played.
I don't hear you.
It's been a really long time since I've played Skyrim.
Have you ever like gone against them, or
yes,
you have gone against them?
And it's a really short quest line.
Is it really?
If you don't join them, it's a quite short quest line. If you go and tell the nearest like imperial authority, and then they're like, oh my God. Because I think on what's her name's body, you can find like a note or the invitation that shows you where their hideout is, and you go and talk to the nearest cop, and they're like, "Do you know where their hideout is at?" The Dark Brotherhood.
The Dark Brotherhood. That's what it is.
Do you know where their hideout is at?
Astrid's the
Astrid.
woman.
There we go. And you're like, yeah, it's right here. And so you organize like a raid on the Dark Brotherhood base and burn it to the ground. And that's the end of the quest line.
That's a bummer.
It's kind of, but at least they let you do it, which is saying something for Bethesda. At least they let you say no and definitively decline doing that faction quest line, which is something that they don't allow you to do for every other faction. Like if you, in order to not join the Thieves Guild, for example,
in the rat way,
you just can't go into the market in Riften, or else fucking Bjornholder or whatever the fuck his name is, the redhead.
Bryn something,
will come up to you.
Brynjolf.
Brynjolf will come up to you in an unavoidable conversation that you cannot, like, if he gets within range of you, you will be in conversation with him, and he'll ask you to go do a thing, and it'll start the quest. You can't just say, no, fuck off. And then, and it's I think it's kind of the same thing with the companions, where if you walk past the companions that are like killing that giant outside of Whiterun when you first appear, they'll like pull you into a conversation and then be like, you should join the companions. You comported yourself well against that giant.
See, by the way, there is a bit of a glitch in the game that I found early on. I know you couldn't find it anywhere on the internet, but I interacted with them while they were killing that giant, and then like never went to join the companions ever. It's like, I don't know what that is. I don't care. I'm doing a different thing.
And you just never went to investigate the big upside down
boat.
ship.
Yeah. I never did. And then eventually one of the companions, I turned around and he's just following me. I'm like, why are you just following me? It was like somewhere else, like way on the other side of the map. And he's just following me. He says, you need to join the companions or whatever. I'm like, I don't, what's going on? And you try to kill him, and he fights you to death, and then you reload, and there he is again.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know what that was like. One of the first couple of times I played the game.
Wow. I think I do remember hearing that, like, if you refuse to, or maybe I'm misremembering it, in that like it's unavoidable, and maybe it's just because I've done it so many times where it feels unavoidable, and maybe it totally is, because I think there actually is a thing where if you don't join them, they will seek you out once you hit a certain level, because they're like, this very powerful warrior needs to join our ranks.
Right.
But maybe that's the thing. I don't know. I wish you could decline. Like, I feel like every faction quest line should be declinable, like definitively of like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to do this time. Don't force me into this weird like half state where I will always have this fucking quest in my quest log that's incomplete.
Right. Gotta meet those damn cannibals up on that cliff in that cave.
Yeah, but Bethesda, so the fact that you can just straight up say no to the Dark Brotherhood and then destroy them is really saying something for Bethesda's quest writing style.
Well, I mean, you can do that, but between the war between the Imperials and
you can. Well, you can just choose not to join either side because you do have to go through a bit of you have to go through a thing in order to join them.
Right.
And they don't there's not a character that tries to actively pull you in like an unavoidable conversation once you get in range of them. So you can choose to be neutral, but what that just means is that the timeline of the game kind of doesn't progress. And it means effectively that the war stops happening. Because the events of Skyrim don't really move forward unless you do something. The world at a certain point doesn't feel particularly alive because you have to be directly involved in so many things.
Right.
I feel like I've sung Fallout New Vegas's praises so many times, but one of the things that I like is no matter what faction you choose to help, the Battle of Hoover Dam happens at the end.
Gotcha.
That
wasn't Bethesda though, was it?
That was Obsidian.
Right.
Published by Bethesda and using the same engine as Fallout 3. But it was written and made by Obsidian, which has gone on to make a number of other games. Most of which are not as good as Fallout New Vegas.
But Fallout 4 was just Bethesda.
Yeah, Fallout 4 was just Bethesda. And it's Obsidian's got some fantasy, a medieval fantasy game coming out relatively soon that I feel like I haven't heard anything about. The last Obsidian anything I played was The Outer Worlds, which was a solid 6.5 out of 10 for me. Right. The writing was charming at times, but I found the gameplay kind of uncompelling and the writing wasn't good enough to make the gameplay feel worth it. Fallout New Vegas's moment to moment gameplay and the gunplay and whatnot is it's objectively kind of dog shit in the same way that Fallout 3's was. That system is not good at guns. And it's one of the things that Fallout 4 is infinitely better at. The guns feel so much better in Fallout 4. But Fallout New Vegas also has a whole bunch of little intricate systems that make me very happy, especially as a gun nerd, because you can modify them. And there's 5 different types of ammo for each caliber, where you can do armor piercing rounds. You can do explosive. You can do plus P, which is just the same bullet, but at a higher pressure.
Oh, wow.
And it breaks your gun faster.
That was a factor in those games too, isn't it?
Yeah. Is weapon durability.
Right.
And anyhow, I'll get off my New Vegas tangent once again. I got a new TV.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a 55. It's the same size as mine. I have a 55-inch.
It's Verbig. Yeah, it's a TCL Q6 because the brand came pretty highly recommended online. Where I opened up a number of threads on Reddit on their TV page. Of people saying I bought this TV. Is it good? Or I'm looking at buying this TV. Is it good? And the comments were almost always a TCL would be better for that price point. So they're like when it comes to like modern non-OLED 4K TVs, they're apparently the best value for your money.
Nice.
So and I'm happy with it so far. I haven't really put it through its paces all too much yet.
Mine's just an ONN.
An ONN, the Onion News Network?
Yes, it's an Onion News Network TV.
What is ONN?
It's a TV. That's all.
Okay.
That's what I bought it at Walmart, and it was on sale. It was 55 inches for like $375. I'm like, can't pass that up.
Mine was like $380, something like that. It's a QLED, which I'm not sure what that means.
A QLED?
Yeah.
Means it's a light-emitting diode that was created by QAnon.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a nice TV, though. Got some really bizarre ideas and problematic beliefs. But damn, it's a good TV. So I won't get rid of it.
Right.
I was going to say it was made by the Queen.
By the Queen?
Yeah. It's the Queen of LEDs.
Right. Brian May actually put it together.
Well, I mean, he's a scientist. So
it's true.
I'm sure he could make a TV.
If he had to. He'd figure it out. Smart guy.
Doctor, but does he have his doctorate? His PhD?
I think he does. I think he is Dr. Brian May.
Anyway, speaking of guitarists.
Oh, well, really? What about guitars?
Some of them played on the album Unquestionable Presence by Atheist.
Or at least two of them.
There are guitars on this album.
There are.
I was a little shocked to look at the personnel lineup of Atheist as a band throughout their history, because it sort of hurts my eyes to look at. There haven't been a ton of different members, but there has been a relatively smaller number of members that have all performed with the band for stints of various length, sometimes seemingly for a couple of days, as marked on their Wikipedia chart.
They're kind of more of a collective than a band. I mean,
yeah, it was really confusing to look at. But the lead vocalist, I think, is the most consistent, and he played guitar on this album as well. I don't think he does for their more recent material.
Right, which this is another gap. Band with a gap,
a band with a big old gap in the middle. And you could put a bunch of clothes in there and sell them. Yeah.
Some jeans. Yeah.
You could even do a baby version.
Sure.
But so I didn't quite write down. I also ran out of room on my little board. I wasn't. A lot of times I leave like room at the bottom to like write the band members down and what instrument they perform. But I didn't this time on my board. And I was like, I already wrote down all the other things. I'm not going to erase everything in order to do it over again because I'm lazy.
I think there's like a couple of tracks on this album where the lineup changed in the middle of recording that track.
One of them decided to switch to drums for a moment.
Right. And then the zither player left. Yeah.
Oh, there's a sneeze.
There it is. A sneeze. Look at think of a cow. Think of a cow?
I'm trying.
Yeah, nope.
It's not happening.
Okay.
It wasn't happening.
You know, the most notable, I think, instrument on this album, I think might be the bass guitar.
I think it absolutely is the bass guitar. I would very much agree with that assessment. I listened to this instead of through my headphones for a change. I plugged my living room speakers into my new TV. And listened through Spotify out there, and the bass was very noticeable, very very driving. Definitely, the bass feels like it's kind of in charge on this album. Right, it sort of decides what everything else is doing, which in a way it kind of always does. Yeah,
but just more a more subtle way.
Yeah. Usually. It's the bass is always a load-bearing instrument for any kind of rock songwriting, generally speaking, but its presence in the mix is usually a little bit more muted, if they're at all. Metallica. But
Kale has a very
I have a weird allergy.
A weird, and It's kind of more Tourette's than anything else. Yeah.
It's an allergy that manifests as me suddenly saying Metallica.
Right.
But I think the bass was very much sort of in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed also there was a riff on the opening track that felt there like there's a gallop that felt really familiar to me for some reason. I'm sure some later band kind of ripping off a little bit. Yeah, I think it was in Mother Man. I think there was the main riff is kind of this gallop, or maybe it was the title track. I actually don't remember. But one of the songs has a riff that felt really familiar to me, and I was like, "Where have I heard this before? Who ripped this off?" It's like that one death riff that 8 trillion metalcore bands have ripped off. Starting with Avenged Sevenfold. This album, I mean, like we were talking about before, has a lot of like unconventional songwriting for the time for death metal anyway. Like there were not really a lot of death metal bands doing this at the time, and would not really start doing it for a little while longer. Like 91 is what would be the most recent death album that came out in 91. Would that be their third album?
That would be Spiritual Healing.
Yeah, Spiritual Healing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, wasn't like the progressive and technical edge that they began to develop wasn't completely absent from that, but I don't think Chuck had really started playing with that until a little bit later on,
right? Where
it became more of the focus of the band.
Yeah, I think it really started to kick off in Human, the next album.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So no one else was really doing the same stuff as these guys in 1991. I'm sure someone was, but nobody fucking knows about them.
Yeah.
The band that people know was doing that is Atheist.
Right.
I think the only thing that I didn't particularly like, it's not that I dislike the vocals, but I found them a little inconsistent, which is sort of the style of death metal at the time.
Right.
Like what exactly death metal vocals had not really solidified yet. Because even if you listen to like early death as well, it tends to be the more kind of high pitched sort of more kind of screechy vocals, and the deeper gutturals kind of wouldn't come in until a little bit, into the early 90s, with your Chris Barneses and the guy from Suffocation as well, doing really deep guttural vocals, and that I think that sort of gained prominence and became what the death growl is.
Right. They were still experimenting with it at this point.
It had not really like this is what death metal vocals are. It was just do some screaming stuff.
Yeah.
And whatever you got, and do it over some crazy sounding, really nasty riffs, and with some, really violent lyrics. Although I didn't, partially because, I don't think it was particularly well enunciated. I didn't pay super close attention to the lyrics. I didn't look into them. So I actually don't know necessarily what the lyrical content of this album is. It didn't strike me as like overly gory.
It's not overly gory. A lot of it is how much they just dislike religion.
I mean, that's an appropriate theme for a band called Atheist.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if they were named Atheist ironically and they're actually a Christian band.
Theist.
Yeah. Like we said earlier today. Right. Makes you think just out of space is the opposite. I feel like that's something fucking Kirk Cameron would say.
Potentially, yeah.
As he's going on about how a banana is a sign of intelligent design.
I mean, they technically are.
But the modern banana is a sign of intelligent design.
Right.
Ours.
Yeah.
Because the modern banana has nothing in common with the wild banana. At all.
Yeah, those things have huge seeds in them or barely edible.
Yeah. So we had to make them better to eat. And I think we did a good job. I like bananas. One of the few fruits that I eat regularly.
Now you have some on your counter right now.
I got some at the grocery store.
I got a bunch.
I mean, I am nothing if I am a primate, and everyone knows primates love bananas.
That's true.
So who am I to deny?
I mean, is there an animal that doesn't like bananas?
Probably polar bears.
Are you sure? I mean, they generally just eat meat, but
yeah, they're kind of obligate carnivores.
True. Have you seen their environment? I mean, imagine if you threw them a banana, they'd be like, yeah, just fucking anything.
That doesn't, yeah, either that or they would go, that doesn't even remotely resemble anything I consider food. Right. So I won't even process that as a thing I can eat. Yeah. A grizzly bear, on the other hand, would fucking nosh a banana, no problem.
Sure.
I'm sure.
What about a growler then?
That's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question.
We should put that out there. If you're listening right now and you know whether or not a growler bear will eat a banana,
let us know.
Let us know.
I feel like a tiger probably wouldn't eat a banana because, again, I mean, big cats and cats in general are kind of obligate carnivores.
Oh, yeah. Like Dame Judi Dench. I mean, yeah.
And cats are not dogs.
That's true.
That's an important thing for you to know and remember.
They will look you in the eye when they tell you.
We can't start talking about cats. So this album slap?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This album slaps for sure. As far as score goes, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of reviews that actually put any sort of number on this because it's relatively old and there's plenty of publications that have reviewed this, in the last couple of decades. And those reviews are available online, but it's usually just a gushing long review about how much they love this album and how important it is.
Yeah.
And not really assigning a quantitative figure to it. But there were 2 scores on the Wikipedia page. One was a 90, the other was 95. So both very high scores, which I think makes perfect sense.
Sure.
What's your favorite song?
I think I like the last track, A Psychic Saw.
Yeah, really good. I really like Your Life's Retribution.
Sure.
That I think the main riff on that is there's something about the way that's structured. I'm like, oh yeah, like
it's tasty.
It activates the same neurons in my brain as there's a specific riff on Horrendous's album. Not their most recent one, but the one before they came out in Idol. On their album Idol, there's a riff on the second song that I will listen to that song entirely just to hear the riff. And I'll listen to the rest of the song, but like once I hear that riff, which is close to the beginning, I'm like, all right, I've gotten what I needed.
I'm satiated.
Yeah.
There's
just like it just activates some part of my brain where I'm like, yes, so good. And Your Life's Retribution kind of had it sort of activated that same part of my brain. So what medal do you bestow upon this album like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
I think I give it a gold.
All right. I think I'm going to have to give it a high silver. I like this a lot, and I can see why other people, consider this to be one of the best death metal albums, certainly one of the best technical, progressive death metal albums.
If not one of the first.
Yeah, certainly one of the first. Yeah. But I don't know if I can give it a gold for me.
It's very thrashy. I thought, this isn't quite gonna.
I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if I loved it.
Right.
Which is generally kind of the criteria that I use for gold of like, do I love this album? So yeah, it's a high silver for me. So next week, an album that I'm really hoping that I love because I haven't listened to it yet. I've listened to a couple songs from it because tomorrow is a real big day for Will Putney.
Sweet.
He has 2 albums coming out tomorrow. So what we're going to talk about next week.
Both of them.
Yeah. We could do that, but I kind of want to space it out a little bit.
Sure.
So what we are going to talk about next week is the new Fit for an Autopsy album.
I knew this one.
The Nothing That Is. And then later on we will talk about an album from a newer Will Putney project featuring a few former members of Every Time I Die, as well as Greg Puciato on vocals.
Sure.
The album, I believe, is called Highly Irresponsible.
What's the name of
the name of the band just escaped from my brain like a mental patient running away.
It's a weird band name.
A mental patient sort of running away from their caretakers. Let's see. Is it going to pop up on the search? God damn it.
Have they ever talked about maybe a reunion of Dillinger?
I don't, not that I think they did do one recently.
Really?
A friend of mine told me about it because he was friends with some members of a different band. A friend of mine from Georgia is friends with a few of the members of a mathcore band called the Callous Dow Boys.
The Callous Dow Boys.
And they apparently did perform with a short Dillinger reunion tour.
Nice.
But I don't think they're making any music.
Is that the guy that was stuck on the plane?
Yes, that is him. Yeah. Better Lovers is the name of the project.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah. Better Lovers also has an album. Their debut album coming out tomorrow, which features Will Putney, Greg Puciato, Jordan Buckley, and a couple other people. So
we'll talk about that at a later date.
Yeah. Everything I've heard from Better Lovers so far, I've really, really enjoyed.
I mean, they're all well-known, competent musicians.
Yeah. A lot of great flavors that taste great together.
Right.
To put it in Reese's peanut butter cups terms. But a big day for Will Putney tomorrow. But anyway, that will be next week when we talk about Fit for an Autopsy. Until then, why don't you go ahead and follow our pages on social media? We're on Facebook and the website formerly known as Twitter, or you can subscribe to our feed on whatever podcast service you're using to listen to us right now. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
So I've tried hundreds of chili recipes to this point. None of them are from a book. They're all just pulled straight out of my ass. Yeah,
I didn't know that's where you put recipes.
Yeah, that's where I put chili.
Well, I feel like you're doing it in the wrong order. That's supposed to be where the chili comes out.
It is right into the pot. It's one of my mutant ability.
You shit chili?
Yeah.
You shit perfectly edible chili?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's completely 100% like clean. There's no bad bacteria, zero fecal matter whatsoever. It gets perfectly. It gets converted into perfect chili. If it's coming out of someone's ass, it's still a no.
It's still a no.